All right, we are live. Hello, everyone. We have
Hello.
K.A. Tucker in the house.
Hi.
Woo-hoo. If you are here, jump on and say hi. Sorry it took so long. We're having internet issues, so if we're lagging, that's why. We have some awkward silences and all that. Let's wait for the comments to show up.
My dog is here waiting with us.
Oh.
So if you hear barking and whining.
Where do you live? Where do you live? Like, are you in like Alaska?
Right? No, I live in Toronto. I'm Canadian. I
Okay,
live in Toronto.
Canadian.
Yeah. And no, I was actually just talking to my friend that it's almost to the date a year since we went to Alaska when we were preparing for, or I was preparing for Running Wild, as she was just coming with me for the fun. And yeah, so it's crazy. It's been a year since then.
Wow.
I really went back. Yeah.
Wow. I've never been, but I've heard about the seasons and how like it can be depressing because of the rain and things like that throughout the year. Is that true, or is that?
I mean, like I've read that. I don't think it doesn't. I mean, I think more the darkness from everything that I've read. It's right. More of the darkness, the long winters, and yeah. So I think that's the harder from what I've read from people. It's not like the West Coast. I think Washington or BC, where it is very rainy and mild. I don't think it's quite like that. It's more the cold and the dark.
Right. So. Yeah, that makes sense.
Where are you guys from?
I'm from Florida.
Okay, very different. Yeah.
Very different. Yeah. McKay.
And I'm in Wisconsin, so I know all about it being dark for long periods of time throughout the winter.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you guys are actually further north latitude wise, I think, than I am. So yeah, I think. I'm trying to remember.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so
brutal
let's start with, you want to just talk about, McKay, you and I, our favorite book by her, and then we can gush about it and let everybody in the comments share all their goodness that we have. I know we have some questions to ask you. I put on Instagram too, like a question box, and I got some questions mostly about Wolf Hotel, because I don't know if you saw, we're doing like a readathon for the entire series.
I did see that. That's awesome.
Yeah. So people are reading it for the first time, and we're doing like live shows about it. So, and I'm just like big fangirl of that series. So I'm like, yeah. So obviously mine's Wolf Hotel because Henry and Abby,
they're a lot of fun. They're a lot of fun.
Yeah.
A lot of drama, a lot of fun.
Yeah. What about you, McKay?
I also agree, Wolf Hotel, but like specifically in that, Break Me is my favorite book of that whole series. Even though like I love Henry and Abby together, obviously I did really like her having her own time, putting some feelers out there for some different tastes, and then she goes back to Henry by the end, and I love that one.
Well, I think Connor and Ronan, they made it. They made
so much fun. You know what? It's funny. That's like the one book where either people were, fully on board, or they said, nope, I am out. I can't believe she went there and allowed Abby to do that. How dare she? My heart's broken and I'm done. So it was one or the other. There was kind of no in between. So
yeah, I agree. I'm like, well, she's got so many good options. I mean, really, like she's not in any bad position. Yeah. She's fine with whoever she picks.
No. And Cheyenne and I both love like the messier the better. So we kind of loved her getting to like complicate things a little bit.
Yeah, it was messy. I remember writing it and I was like, okay, where do I go with this next one? How much crazier can this get? And each book I get bored easily. So I'm like, all right, well, I can't do that because that already happened. So where else can we go in this series? So we went far.
Well, you delivered that, because it still had like a small town feel, but also the CEO billionaire aspect of it too, which was really well blended. I'm not normally a fan of small town romances, which I don't think I really consider it small town, but I loved like the hominess of it, but also like the dominance and being a CEO and running a company and that kind of thing that you get from billionaire romances.
It was fun. Yeah.
Okay, so we have some people who Simple Wild. That's a good one. So what's your favorite that you've written? Like what's been the most fun for you?
You know what? The Simple Wild for me, I would say kind of it really holds a special place in my heart. So, and that series now, I could go back to it at any time and pick up somewhere and write more. I just love being with those characters, and I got to know them so well that they're quite easy to write from a from a personality standpoint. Their personalities, I know them so well. So to me, The Simple Wild is kind of up there, but I can't. I've got favorites from for every story. There's a lot of favorite characters within them. So yeah, I mean, I can't, it's hard for me to pick, but if I had to, I would say the Simple Wild series is kind of my number one. But the Wolf Hotel is, like I said, that was a kind of a fun project that I did completely separate. I said, you know what, I'm not going to do all of the crazy research and all this intense, everything. I'm just going to just go off and write whatever. It's just going to be like a fun book, fun series, and that's what it turned out to be. And that was fun too. It was stretching. I like stretching. Kind of, I don't like being set in the same box. I like to go to different areas and stretch my skill set. So that definitely stretched me, that series. I mean,
yeah. So is that what inspired your pen name through Nina West? Was that like that series?
Well, so when I did write under pen name, that was the series that I put out first under that pen name. Yeah. So I was under contract with a publisher, and so I had specific restrictions on me, and I knew that if I wanted to go write something kind of steamier, that I would need to do it under a different name, not my own. So, and it, it was a lot easier actually, because the pressure was off me. I was like, you know what, nobody knows this is me. I can just write it, and I have no pressure whatsoever. So,
yeah.
So that was kind of nice.
I love that.
So why did you go back later then and put your name back on those series? Was it when you were out of contract that then you did that? Because the Empire Nightclub series too, that's was Nina West, but then you put it back under your name.
Yeah. So it was the same thing where, I was out of contract with my publisher, and actually it was COVID hit, and everyone was stuck at home. And so I have a Facebook reader group, and we were just chatting in there, and readers were coming and saying, look, I've read your entire backlist. Do you have anything else that, that I can read of yours? And I was like, well, actually, yeah, I do. And that's when I told them. And so then that just kind of snowballed. And at that point already, it was difficult to manage two pseudonyms. I struggle with managing one. So I just said, you know what, I'm just going to put this under one umbrella. It's my name, it's my books. And, that way people who've read me, but maybe like something steamier, they can venture that way. Or there's readers who haven't read me, but really like steamy books. So I'm like, here you go. Like you might've heard my name, try it out. Maybe you like this rather than other books, or maybe you like them all, so I have kind of a whole range of books to choose from. So
yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
We got A Fate of Wrath and Flame. Will there be an audio for that?
Yeah, it's coming out October 25th. So that's very, very soon. And then Running Wild, in case anyone asks and they're watching, I just got the date this past week, and that's coming November 15th. So only a few weeks after, which is good.
Awesome. Yeah. That was one of the questions I had.
Yeah, I get that question like daily. I've been getting it daily since January. I finally have an answer.
I know. I think that entire world was so interesting, especially when like Jonah and Calla went to, what was it, where they like bought their house, and they're in this whole like different type of like landscape for her, and she's trying to like grow her vegetables and the neighbors and all that. Like that was such a cool community that you built. And I mean, I feel like really hard. Ooh, hold on. It closed out of my screen. Can you see me?
I can see you.
Okay. I couldn't see anything. I'm like, what happened? I just thought that was really neat, like to see the community that you built through, especially when it was just like about more so revolving around her father and that story, and how you developed it over time in that way. I really loved that.
Oh, thank you. Well, yeah, I when I went to write it, I wanted it to be I wanted it to feel fresh. I didn't want it to feel like just a continuation of the first book. And I felt like, you know, moving the setting and introducing an entire new cast of characters would do that. And it's a character driven story, that book, in that it's very much about Calla and Jonah, but really Calla and their, you know, what happens after the happily ever after. That, you know, we knew that they were still going to have a lot of struggles. And so I wanted to kind of investigate that and develop that a bit more and make it feel really, really three-dimensional in terms of a relationship.
Yeah, because a lot of times we don't get that in the beginning. We get, you know, HEA at the end. So it was really nice to see it expanded on. And then you really got to see them living out their romance. So
yeah. And the good, the bad, and the ugly, and the, you know, her insecurities and her doubts, and yeah, it was a struggle to write, but I enjoyed writing it, and I mean, Roy is still probably one of my favorite characters, so I really loved writing him.
All right, let's see. Here's another question. Where did your inspiration come from with the layout of Alaska Wolf Hotel? Yes, this is very true.
So you know what, I was saying that I didn't really go based off realities. So, you know, when I was in Alaska, actually, when we were there a year ago, we did go to a really nice, it was, south of Anchorage, and the name escapes me right now. Really nice place, but older, nothing like this. Like, this was, you know, kind of a really almost a fantastical type of hotel that I wanted in there. So would I say that exists down there? No, probably not. Actually, definitely not. But I just wanted something really, really fun. So yeah. And then in terms of, I mean, I know that I spent a lot of time on Pinterest, and I spent a lot of time on Google Maps and mapping things out and just kind of getting the lay of the land before I even go anywhere. But that was really all just creativity on that one. That wasn't based off of any actual real place in Alaska.
Yeah, I know. I could picture it very clearly in my head. I mean, me and McKay both were like, that cabin, we could see that. We could see that happening.
Yeah. If it was based on a real place, safe to say Cheyenne and I would be booking a trip there ASAP.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people would be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really expensive.
Yeah. I was about to say, can we get a wax while we're there too?
Oh yeah, I was writing. I'm like, okay, where can I go with this? This is going to be ridiculous, but okay, let's do it. You know?
Oh, that's funny. Okay, so I do have a question. If you, let's say, like, if you could co-write with anybody, who would you want to write with?
You know, I get this question all the time, and I don't know. I think I would have a really hard time co-writing with anybody, just because of my way of writing, which I don't outline, I don't really plot. I attempt to, but I only ever get so far, and then I just have to sit down and start writing and see where it takes me. And I think that if you were to try and write with somebody doing that, and you're me, it would be probably really hard on both fronts. So, because if the other person doesn't do that and writes with an outline, that would drive them insane. But if they handed me an outline to follow, I would feel stifled. And if they were like me, then we would probably not get anywhere. Like, how would we get anywhere? So yeah, I don't know. I think I would have a really hard time doing it with anybody.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I would love to, but yeah.
So when you're not writing, what type of books do you enjoy reading? Like, do you read romance, or who do you read? What's something that you enjoy?
So I'm a mood reader, a big time mood reader. So I get through my phases, and I'll be, you know, in a big fantasy phase, and I'll read a lot of fantasy, or I'll be in a rom-com-y, like light and fluffy romance, and I'll read that, or I'll get into women's fic, or I'll want a historical, right? So it's all about, I mean, it's always about the writing, and it's always about the writer's voice. But I love, Kristen Hanna. I read a lot of her books. I love Frederick Bachman. I actually really enjoy. I've read several of his, and I really enjoy them. Like, Beartown was one of my favorites. I'm trying to think of there, and I think is it Mary McFarlane? I'm not sure how to pronounce her first name. It's spelled Mhairi, I think. She's a rom-com type writer, and I think she's in the UK. I think she's UK based, and I actually really enjoy reading her books because they just have I don't know, just a different vibe to them, different feel, but very sharp, very witty. I enjoy them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm kind of all over the place. So I like to read broadly. I don't like one specific genre, but I do really enjoy having some sort of romance in everything.
Right. I'm sure that's hard too when you're writing and then like trying to separate what you're reading from what you're writing as well.
Well, and I can't a lot of the time, especially if I'm under a deadline at the beginning. Like right now, I've just kind of got into writing again after taking the summer off. So it's really slow going. And so I can pick up a book and read at night, and that's fine. But as I get further in and more kind of immersed in the story, I can't read anything. It just messes my head up. So, and then I go on a binge and I read for like, I finish the book and then I'll read a whole bunch of books all at once. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite couple of yours? I mean, I know it's kind of hard to pick, but looking at like all of your books and series, is there one that you gravitate more towards?
Well, so Kala and Jonah, like I said, they're that whole series, but that couple, I love them. Before them, I always loved Reese and Ben they're from the 10 Tiny Breaths series, and they're the last book, 5 Ways to Fall. And I love them because he was just a arrogant but friendly, lovable, I don't know what you call him, but like very attractive, obviously, but that kind of that fun-loving guy, but obnoxious and a womanizer. And he meets Reese, who is scorned and angry but very, very sharp-tongued and very kind of dramatic in some senses. And I really, really, really loved writing the two of them. And I was actually just flipping through something the other day, their pages, and I loved it.
Oh,
so it reminded me of them, and I love them. So yeah, I would say those are the kind of the two couples that jump out at me. But then also with my fantasy, Xander and Romeria, they are a lot of fun. They were a lot of fun to write.
Yeah, those books have been doing really well for you.
Yeah, you know what? Surprisingly, in the sense that I don't have a fantasy fan base, and so, but it was a passion project for me. I really wanted to write them. And so I thought, you know what, I'm just going to do it. And if everyone hates it, oh, well, you know what, I'm doing it. And, and so far it's been good. It's been I've received a really good reception from readers and people.
That's great. I love that. We have another question here. What are you currently reading and loving right now? Speaking of books.
You know what? So I am in between books. I just over the summer, I actually had a huge reading slump, which really, 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 really sucked. So I haven't been able to read anything. Every book that I picked up, I put down. And so I'm not going to, name any names, obviously. But I just wasn't in it. And, but I think I was burnt out, I think, over the summer. I just needed kind of just away from everything. But I just downloaded, what was it? I just downloaded a book off of Kindle. I bought one, obviously. And it's a romance. I'm trying to think. It just came out not long ago, and I can't remember the name of it. So I'm going to give that one a try. And then otherwise, I've been reading up on my last books because I'm diving back into a series, and I couldn't remember anything from it. So I had to go back. So I've been doing that.
Okay, so what's next?
The Hustler. I'm going to do The Hustler Next Door, which is for the Player Next Door, but I'm writing it's a standalone and a series of standalones within the world. So I want to write it so that anyone can get in at any time. But it's a lot of fun. I love the characters in there. So yeah, I think it's a kind of fun, flirty, little bit sexy book, I would say. So that should be fun.
So what are the tropes in that one?
Enemies to lovers, definitely. That's probably my favorite. It's small town, so it's going off a small town. Those are kind of those two big ones now. I don't know. We'll see as we write further what I throw in. But
love it.
Yeah,
love it. Yeah. Okay, this question I have gotten. I mean, even before I posted about our interview, people are messaging me like, "We need more Henry and Abby. Do we get a bonus epilogue? Do we get Margot? We all love Margot." So can you answer that for us?
Yes,
so
we love Margot.
I get this question every day as well. I'm not even kidding. Every single day. So my answer is I have made no commitments and I have made no plans, but never say never. So
Yeah.
I am, that is probably my number one most requested. That kind of that even more than a Simple Wild sequel or another book in the world. So yeah, that's my answer. Is I'm not making any commitments.
Yeah, I remember a lot of people were like, so do Ronan and Connor get a book? Like, what's going on with them? Like, I want to know, like, your plotting behind Margot too, and like, did you have inspiration for her character or what? Like, how did she? Because she's a very strong person in the book.
Yeah,
strong personality, but like super badass, and like you want to be like her and you want to be friends with her. So, what was your idea going into it for her?
I wanted to write a character or a woman who was comfortable with herself in every way, and with her sexuality, with her just who she is as a person. She does not care about kind of anything. I mean, she cares in the sense of she's, a caring person, but she's not out there to impress anybody. She is who she is, and she's happy with who she is, and she flaunts who she is, and she is very strong. And so I wanted to just have a kind of a positive character, female character in that sense, who's just, there's just no, she is who she is, and she is what's the word, unapologetic about it, and I really, really did enjoy writing her. I mean, and she's very strong, and you're almost like, whoa, what's happening here? But then also all of the characters are almost, they all have their own quirks, and in some ways are off the wall, and in some ways are, maybe a bit tough to digest in some things that they do and say, but they're all like lovable. You can't help but love them.
Yeah. I really loved Michael. I just thought he was going somewhere. I was like, what? Come on, give this guy a girl. Give this guy a girl. He gives good massages. Yeah. Stand up. Come on.
He got the short end of that stick. Yeah. So poor guy. But he should not have moved in like he did.
No, but Henry showed him grace.
I would have loved to have seen Margot interact with Gabriel's brother from the Empire Nightclub series. Is Caleb? Is that his name? They would make such a dynamic duo, the two of them. They would just need like just a little like quick steamy time between the two of them.
Mm-hmm. And it's not a bad idea. Do like a crossover book or something like that. That'd be pretty wild, because that's a fun series too. I mean, it's very different, but but that was kind of a crazy series to write.
The whole plot of that series was just so unique and creative. I loved it.
Well, what I loved with that one was that the first two books are really, really steamy, because it's very much about, just the dynamic between Mercy and Gabriel. But then you get kind of really deep into their world, which is a very dark world. And then, the steamy parts kind of really take a backseat to their relationship as it evolves in this disaster of a world and situation that they're in. So
yeah, I know. McKay, you just got done reading that whole series.
That final book, you don't.
Sorry.
I did, yeah. And I was gonna. I know. Sorry, I'm like sorry. But I was just gonna say, even with the final book, like you don't really miss that, because there's so much going on, and so many people being like, "We need our dad dead." Oh, I need my dad dead too. Like, let's all go up together. Like, there's just so much going on that you don't really. Like, I didn't miss it that much because of that.
Well, and so it's funny, because I can't remember who I was talking to. I think it was my publicist, and and I said, she was like, "Well, so what's in this? Like, when we market this, what are the tropes? Is it steamy? How much? What's in there?" And I'm like, "Well, when this person's being tortured, it's kind of difficult. Like, between that and this, it's really difficult to slide in, anything little, whatever, kind of any sort of trace." So, yeah, but it was a fun, not fun. I mean, it was fun, but it was very intense. That was an intense book series, I should say.
Now, what about as far as your standalones go? What's your what standalone of yours do you wish got more hype than it does? Like that you wish more people read?
I think Until It Fades is probably one of my favorite standalones, and that's just because it's like I wrote it after I wrote He Will Be My Ruin, which is a thriller, and which was also was fun, but it was really intense. And then so after that, I said I just need like a light and fluffy romance, and it's like a Cinderella story kind of type story, and that's when I came up with that idea. And I was flipping through and reading it. And I don't know. It's such a happy. I mean, it's a happy book, but there's also some terrible things that happen in it, and it is heavy. I mean, I tend to work heavy topics in even for the lighter stuff. That's a book that I kind of, and I'm always, if someone's asking for a book of mine that they haven't read yet, I'm like, have you read this Until It Fades? Like, go try this out. It's, he's kind of got everything in it as well, with the single mom and the hockey and the small town and everything. Yeah. So I would say that's probably one of them.
Yeah. I really enjoyed that one. I really did. I loved like the ending of it. I don't want to say anything about it, but the ending.
Yeah.
It was good. Here we go. Here's another question. How many books are you planning to be in your fantasy series?
Yeah, good question. I get that a lot as well. So I've never committed to a number, and I definitely will not commit to a number, because my feeling is I will write the story until it's done. As I write all this, so I had, and I don't, like I said, I don't plot, but I have plot points. I'm like, oh, this has to happen. This has to happen. I have a list on my phone, random ideas and thoughts that hit my head and I hit like my mind, and I jot them down. And then I go through as I'm writing, and half of those plot points did not happen in book 2 because it just wouldn't have made sense. The characters had to get there first, and they couldn't get to those plot points yet. So I kind of went from thinking, oh, this will probably be 3 books to this will definitely be 4 books. So now I don't know is my quick answer. I don't want to say it's going to be a specific number, because then if it's more, people tend to get angry. So my answer is I'm going to keep writing until it's done and the story is told properly. I won't rush anything. I don't see it being 10 books or anything crazy like that by any means. But yeah, so 4 or 5, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Hey, you got to cover your own bases too. I understand that. I get that. I can't imagine the messages that you get every day.
Yeah, I like that.
That's overwhelming.
I mean, it's not a bad thing, right? It's always a good thing if people want more of your books. That's kind of what you want. But right. I don't ever want to mislead people. I don't want, them to be, thinking one thing and reality is a different thing. So I'm not a big fan of commitment of any say. So all my answers are basically, we'll see what happens, and I don't know, and never say never, because I committed, or I was like, you know what, I'm going to sit down. I'm writing The Hustler Next Door. And I did that. That was supposed to be out last January, 2021. And I sat down to write it, and I couldn't write it. And so since then, I've been getting emails and messages from readers saying, when is this coming out? You said it was coming out, way back when. And then I feel bad. So just not committing to anything anymore.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm sure that's hard for you to do, to even push it back, but you want to do your best work and like be in the best mindset, I'm sure. So I'm sure that's difficult.
Yeah. It's all about mindset. Sorry if you can hear my dog now, but yeah, it's all about mindset, right? And I don't want to, I've been there before once where I wrote a book when I was not in the right mindset, and it was the most painful experience. And so I said I would never do that again. So that's why I'm always very, very careful and protective of my schedule and my thought process. Stop it. Sorry. Come here. Sorry. I don't know if you can hear her, but she's staring at me.
No. Yeah. No, I get that.
Sorry,
I get the demanding.
Oh, sorry, keep going. Keep going. What's happening?
I don't know.
All right, McKay, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Oh, no, I was just saying, no, I get the demanding pets thing, so no worries about your dog.
Staring at me right now.
All right, we do have another question here. Do you prefer traditionally published or indie published?
You know what? Both sides have benefits and drawbacks. But having done both and now being pretty comfortable where I'm at with indie publishing, I mean, I'm happy where I am right now. That's not to say that I will not. I mean, I have kind of the best of both worlds where I'm managing everything myself, and I'm maintaining rights in North America, and I'm also selling foreign rights. I'm selling audio rights, or my agent is. So it's nice to have that. You know, there's, like I said, there's drawbacks. And I will potentially at some point, when I find the right book, write that book and then see if the publisher might want it, if it's the right book. But it has to be the right story. So yeah, I'm pretty happy right now, put it that way. But that's not to say that I would not love to work with a publisher in the future again at some point when it's right for everybody.
Right. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. I see that question there. So, so the short answer is no. However, actually, that was one of the challenges that we had with Running Wild. So the question is, I don't know if people can read that. I guess they can, right, with the narrators.
Yeah.
So yeah. So generally, no. Although the publisher will send a couple of narrators as options. And then I can sometimes say yes or no, like, you know, here's my two options. Who would I prefer? We were having a hard time finding somebody for Running Wild, which was part of the hang up, because we couldn't go with the same person that did the first 3 books because it didn't make sense. It was told from a different point of view, right? And actually back, I think it was probably about a month ago, a reader messaged me and asked about it, and I said, we're just trying to find the narrator. And so she suggested a name, and so I was like, okay, I'll check this out. And I went in and I listened to a couple of her audio samples, and I thought she was great. And so I sent it off to my agent, who went to the publisher and said, hey, you know, can you get so and so? And they managed to get her. And so, which is kind of cool, right? Because I'm not an audio listener. I wish I was. I really wish I was, because I would be able to listen to so many more books and you know, consume so many more books, but I'm just not. So I have a hard time kind of deciding who's going to be a good voice and who would I want to listen to. So having that reader feedback was great. That input was fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm kind of the same way too. I don't listen to audiobooks very much, but I try to, especially when I'm on like longer trips and things like that. But I always get so distracted, and then I end up having to like rewind it, and I'm like, oh, what did I miss? Go all the way back again, and then I feel like I can almost like narrate it better in my head.
Yeah. And I've tried with several books, and I've just given up. And so, like I said, I'm so envious of people who can do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All
right. Does anybody have any other questions?
Do you have any like tropes?
Sorry.
I was
you go, girl.
Crazy. I was just gonna ask: Are there any tropes or subgenres that you haven't written in yet that you want to in the future or plan to?
You know, I feel like I've covered all of them. I don't. I mean, I would almost want readers to be like, "Hey, you didn't do this one," and then I could think about it, because I feel like, I mean, I haven't done. Well, no, I did kind of do My Brother's Best Friend in Ronan. That was like that was even in there. So I feel like I've probably done all of them. I can't, like, there are some that I gravitate toward naturally. Like I said, Enemies to Lovers, I love. Second Chance Romance, I love. Small Town, I love. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of feel like I've done them all at some point. I mean, with this many books.
Yeah. I'm sure that's hard to like separate all of them. Like you go back and like, okay, I did this one in this book, and this one in this book, and this one. So like, what's next? What can I divvy out?
Yeah. And I don't even, when I sit down to write, I don't really say, okay, I'm this book, I'm going to, here's my list of, tropes, and I'm going to, this is what this one's going to be. I just start writing. And then usually afterward, when I'm with with my publicist and they're doing the marketing and, they're asking those questions, okay, so what tropes are in there? And I'm sitting and I'm looking at their lists, and I was like, oh yeah, there's a bit of this. Oh yeah, there's a bit of that. And so so yeah, it's not really intentional on my part, other than usually the enemies, when I know, I'm like, okay, they're going to hate each other at the start. And I know that. But beyond that, or, if it's a second chance, usually that's a big one. That's the kind of the set, for the plot. And I was actually working with someone else recently, and I had to go back 3 times because they were asking for a backlist and the different tropes. And I had to keep going back thinking, oh, wait, no, there's a bit of that. Oh, wait, I forgot to mention that. So it's hard to keep up. And you know what? It's a kind of a relatively new thing with romance, I feel, or in the last few years, people have been very focused on social media with, bucketing people or books and labeling books with tropes. And whereas when I started in 2011, 2012, 2013, it wasn't as prevalent. People weren't kind of, talking about books as much or tropes as much back then.
Right.
So, yeah. So just, it's still a bit something kind of to wrap my head around. Oh, there's a question there. Sorry. Will we get more books set in Alaska? Maybe. Never say never. No commitments. Those are my standard answers.
Okay, this is a good question. How did you get into writing, and was it something you always wanted to do?
Sure. Frankly, it wasn't. I mean, I wrote little stories when I was a young child, and I loved doing those. And they were dragons and princesses and whatnot. But I went to business school, and I had a business degree, and I was working in the consumer goods industry in the corporate world. I was there for over a decade, actually. And then I was on maternity leave with my second child, and we're in Canada, so we have a year off. And I was just looking for really a break for myself while I'm at home with my 2 little kids, and I can't really go anywhere. And so it was kind of more of a something. It was a me thing, right? Like, and I'm always a big advocate of women and new moms, and really, but females in general, of everybody, frankly, of having something for themselves, but especially new moms, where you're overwhelmed with caring for children and babies, and it can be very overwhelming. And so, yeah, and I had an idea to write or a story, and I just grabbed a laptop and I started writing. It was 100% just for me, and it was just kind of my little escape. And then I just discovered and realized that I loved it. And so I just kept writing and writing and writing, and through maternity leave, and even when I went back to work. But it was 100% a hobby at that point. And I self-published a couple books, and then, and then I self-published 10 Tiny Breaths, and that one did extremely well. And then an agent came to me, and then a publisher came to me. And then it just snowballed from there. So it was just a very fast, at that point, it all kind of happened all at once. And I had to make a decision at that point of, was I going to stay in the corporate world, or was I going to pursue this new career? And it was frankly a no-brainer. So yeah, so I left the corporate world job and started writing full time.
I love that. That's like, well, I'm no writer, but like, that's kind of like my position that I'm in too. I've got 3 kids, and I'm like, how, like, it's really hard. It's really hard being a mom, and especially being home, and then like managing yourself and taking care of yourself and your mental health, and like balancing your entire life. So I can totally see where you're probably like, I need something for me, and something that is solely mine and nobody else's. And I think that's great.
Yeah, it was my little way of getting out, and also having a challenge for myself that had nothing to do with the challenge of diapers and lack of sleep. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, that was going to be waiting, but it was just that little bit of time that I could just say, this is my time, this is what I'm doing, and it's 100% for me. And it changed my life, frankly.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's encouraging. All right, here we go. Is there anyone in Canada you'd like to set a book or series one day?
Well, so I have, Be the Girl is actually set in Ontario. That's a YA, an upper YA fantasy, sorry, not fantasy, upper YA contemporary that I wrote a few years ago. And I actually wrote that really for my daughter. So my older daughter has autism. And so I wanted to write a book that had a character like her. But she's a kind of the secondary supporting character, and so the book does touch very heavy topics of autism and bullying and just the kind of the family dynamic around that. But then there's also the boy next door, the romance and whatnot. So because that was a special book for me, and so that's set in Ontario. And when I was actually researching Simple Wild, so when I was settling down to write it, I was originally thinking I was going to write it first in Northern Ontario, because there's very remote areas in Northern Ontario. And then I was thinking Yukon, which is right next to Alaska. And then I ended up in Alaska because it just made more sense. But so will I write a book in Canada again? Absolutely. I actually have a plot for one I've been sitting on for a few years. So we'll see when and if that ever comes out.
Nice. That's awesome. We have a friend on BookTube who she lives in Canada too. Where I was like, should we make a trip?
No, yeah. Where is she?
Where is she at?
She's in Vancouver.
Yes, I was gonna say one of the major cities.
Oh, it's beautiful. You should totally do that in the summer, not in the shoulder seasons where it's raining. but yeah, it's beautiful there.
So what about, do you have any book signings coming up too, or anything that you're going to be in, or?
That I have is a Polycon, which is next April, I think, in Washington. No, sorry, where is it? DC, I think. Yeah. And that's it for now. I'm limiting, kind of doing one US signing a year and then one potential international. But yeah, I'm definitely kind of, I did quite a few way back when. And, so I'm not doing Book Bonanza next year. I did it this year. But it's just the timing won't work for me for next year. So yeah.
A little sad.
Or are you going to be there at Book Bonanza?
Yeah.
No,
yeah, it's okay.
Anyway, it's the last week of June, and our kids get out of school, and it's just birthdays and everything happens that 1 week, and then they need Book Bonanza, and I'm like, I can't.
It's a crazy time of year. I know. I get it. You gotta family first.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you have any other questions?
I was just curious, when you came up with the name Nina West, was there anything like behind that? Did it just come to you? Like, how did you choose your pen name? I guess I'm just curious about that.
I don't even remember. There was literally no rhyme or reason. I think I Googled Amazon to make sure there was no other name by that, like author, and that was it. That's as far as I went. I'm like, all right, we're good. And that was it. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
I know. I have people that'll be like, it's not K.A. Tucker, it's Nina West for Wolf Hotel. And I'm like, they're the same thing. They're the same thing. Okay.
Well, Amazon won't update. So I, updated everything, but they sometimes it like, and people, when they open up their Kindle and it still says that. So it still says it has my old cover, old name and everything. And I'm like, I can't fix it. I don't know how to change that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Goodreads still has the old Empire Nightclub series covers on there. Like they have the shirtless men covers. They don't have the glass ones on there.
Yeah, well, I updated those. So I think it takes more as more people add the new. I don't know. There's some technicality that somebody explained to me and it just went over my head. But I'm hoping eventually they'll change.
All right. Does anybody else in the comments have any other questions? This has been fun. I just freaking love Henry and Abby. I feel like I know them, and I think I swear to you, all of my people on my channel are probably like, this girl better shut up about this couple, because I don't even care. I don't even care. like for like 6 videos straight, I was like, Henry and Abby? Have you met Henry and Abby? Have you met Henry and Abby? And I think everybody's read Henry and Abby now.
Well, I will never complain about that. So I appreciate it because, honestly, reader, word of mouth is still king, right? Or queen, however, whoever you want to choose. But yeah, it's still extremely powerful. So, I mean, I started that series back in 2015, and it's only in the last 2 years or so that it's actually gained some traction. Because I put, switched it to my name, but then COVID and everything. But really, it's been the readers. So it's pretty crazy how much power you guys have with just talking about your love of characters.
Yeah, well, girl, you can write some steam too. I was like, I didn't like. She's really got it in her.
Yeah, well, I think I'm probably 2 bottles in at that. I don't know. Everyone's like, you want to, write another one? I'm like, I don't think my liver can handle it.
So is that how you prep going into that?
Because I could not have been sober, to be honest. I don't know. So I went back and I had to reread. I can't remember what I was editing or something. I had to go through because of typos and stuff. And I'm going through and and fixing and reading these lines, and I'm just like, oh my god. Yeah.
Did that dirty talk really come from my brain?
I was like, I obviously shut down, and then some other part opened up, and just like, okay, let's write this, because that's not really how my head works. But
oh my gosh, that's so funny. That's hilarious. Well, this has been really fun.
I can see you going back into your laptop and being like, did I write this truck scene? Like, when did I invent this?
Oh yes. Oh, yes. Yeah. Okay, wait, we have to talk about that real quick, because the truck scene, and then when they're at Margot's place.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I get bored. So I'm like, okay, what kind of combinations can we do here? I'm like, we've done that. That's almost like there's like a checklist.
Yes. Ronan's last line in the last book, I was like, I'm done. Take me away. I can live happy forever, because Ronan can come to me. I'm happily married, but can I have Ronan, please? Can I have him?
You know what? He kind of reminds, he is almost he's not quite like Caleb. When I think of Caleb from Empire Nightclub, he's a bit more kind of crazy, off the wall, a little bit unhinged, whereas Ronan's much more level-headed and even, but also kind of that same vibe. So Ronan was fun. I think if I'm not saying I am, but if I were to write another one, he would definitely be kind of, present in that, but because he was a good character.
Yeah. Even Connor, I really liked Connor too.
Yeah.
He's a little crazy, but
he's a meathead, right? He was, he had
a soft spot too. You could tell he wanted Abby too. They all wanted her.
No, he was lovable.
They wanted her boobs.
Yeah, well, yeah. But they were he was. They're all lovable, and and they loved Abby, and that was fun, right? To be able to just have all of them just loving her. So why not?
Yeah, I love that. Okay, here's one last question. How long does it take you to complete a book?
I am kind of all over the place. So sometimes I would say kind of my average is about 3 months. But it can be longer. There were books that there was one book, I can't remember which one was, I worked on for a year, and Keep Her Safe. That was a kind of romantic suspense, and that was probably my most challenging book I've ever written, and I'm very proud of it. But it's much darker, with police corruption and and bad people. But in general, I would say 3 months. Wolf Hotel was probably faster, I think, because like I said, I didn't get so involved with the research. It was really about, the characters and where I could take them. I didn't worry about, is there a place realistically like this in Alaska, and would this actually be open, and, how many hours of the day would it be open? I didn't worry about those kinds of things. And those are probably about 6 weeks to write, to 8 weeks.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, that's great.
But that's working full time, right? I mean, that's because I'm I'm in or out, right? Like I'm all in, and to do a couple hours a day, I don't do well with that. I have to be focused. Oh my God, my dog. Sorry. Oh yeah, when Lauren said that, yeah, we just lost her. Yeah.
I know. I just love that.
Henry was back, so it was okay.
I know. They let her go. Okay, I'm getting emotional like I was there. All right. Any other questions? Give McKay a couple seconds.
The delay.
Okay. All right.
Cool.
Well, this has been fun. We really appreciate you being here. It was cool to talk about all of our favorite things with you and about your books and how much we love them. And I know this is taking time out of your busy schedule. So thank you.
No, thank you. Thanks for it's like, I was at 6 hockey games this weekend. And so now I'm like, okay, I can just I can be in my office and it's quiet. So this is perfect.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being here. Thank you, everybody in the comments, for participating and hanging out with us. Thank you, McKay. And yeah, we'll call it a night.
Awesome. Thank you for your support. I really,
really
appreciate it.
Okay. All right. We'll see you later.
Okay, take care. Bye.